What is going on, loyal listeners? This is your guest host, the better looking host, I guess, if that's the way to put it, other than Jason Cass. I'm not talking about Jason Cass like that, or am I? Glad for you guys to join us on this next episode of the Agency Intelligence Podcast. I am Mitch Gibson with HRM Insurance Services in beautiful Indiana. And believe it or not, a couple of guests I've had on the show, or guests that you will be hearing from on the show, are also from Indiana. And I look back and like I say all the time, being 25 in the insurance business, I didn't realize the connection of how many insurance agents in Indiana I might get to know soon. And fact of the matter is, I've met 3 independent agents in the last week and a half that I didn't know existed. One, and two, thanks for the phenomenal industry that we are part of and that we live in. I was able to get connected with this next guest that you're about to hear from. And when I talk about this next guest, yep, we live in the same climate range of consistently cold in the wintertime here in beautiful Indiana, and he joins us from a little bit up north, so he kind of gets hit with the cold weather a little bit as well. But Mr. Mike Lewis, appreciate you joining the show, my man. How's things going for you?
Man, I'm doing fantastic, Mitch. How about yourself?
I can't complain, dude. It's a whirlwind of difference with the COVID, and then cold weather hits and it just kind of smacks us in the face. I don't know about you, but when the cold weather hits, I kind of just puts me in a gloomy mood all the time. So I've got to drink an extra 5 or 6 cups of coffee throughout the day to kind of keep me going, especially looking out the window and it just looks like crap, which I'm sure it does at your place too.
Oh yeah, it's gloomy for sure. I wish I lived down south.
That's awesome. No, I did too. I had Ryan Mahoney from Goosehead Insurance on the show not too long ago. If you don't know Ryan, go check him out. He was a phenomenal guest, and he just happens to live in Florida, and it really ticked me off. And I said, give me a vision and give me a view of what the outside of your windows look like right now at your office, and it was palm trees. And he goes, it was a little cold today. It's like 65 to 70 degrees. I go, well, great. I said, it's 25 and rainy here. So thanks for rubbing it in.
Yeah, right.
So, well, Mike, once again, I appreciate you joining the show today, and joining the Agency Intelligence Podcast here. And once again, I can't thank Jason and the team over at the Agency Intelligence Podcast for giving me the opportunity and the platform to interview some guests and guest host the show. When I was kind of thinking about who I wanted to have on the show and kind of the topics that I wanted to talk about, one being the content creating side of things on the insurance side as an agent, agency owner, whatever it could be, the niche marketing podcast, and also just to hit the young agents and let them know how important it is to develop these strategies young and early on in their career, or for those people who might just be getting started in their career and they might be middle-aged, which is nothing against that. These topics can really make a difference in the success of their longevity of their careers. And guys like Mike are doing it. And we'll get into Mike's story here in just a few minutes. But Mike, our loyal listeners like to hear a few questions, and your answers to kind of get to know you as the guest a little bit more, and what type of a person you are. Some of these questions are funny. Some of these questions are serious. So answer them how you please, and we'll give our loyal listeners what they want. With that first question being, are you a good old iPhone or an Android user?
Oh man, I am iPhone all the way.
iPhone all the way. For those who don't know, this is kind of a funny fact. Before Mike and I hopped on the show and hit the record button, we literally were probably spending 25 to 40 minutes trying to get connectivity things going on. We even had to do a little tutorial on the iPhone of how to make sure the video looked okay, but we survived. But I think it's because the iPhone. I know those Android users are out there. There's nothing against them. They still do great things, but the iPhone, in my eyes, is it's so much more easy and accessible for myself. I think you'd probably understand that as well.
You know it.
Next question, on that iPhone that you got, what's the last app you've downloaded?
Last app I downloaded was Reface.
Reface, what was that? Was that one of those beauty filter things that changes the way you look?
It turns me into Rambo. It turns me into Elf. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. I'm glad you brought this up. Because we've got to hit this topic. If you don't follow Jason Cass on Facebook, first off, please go follow him. Okay. Go like his Facebook page. I think that might be what he used. And I don't know if he did, but back in like January, he spent about 3 days in a row, I think, making those refaced videos, because he was the guy from some rap artist. Then he was in the Titanic, and then he was in another movie, and it was hysterical. I thought it was funny. So I think I'm gonna have to get the Reface app and try it out a little bit. Well, what else, you said you would turn into Elf?
Yeah, I did Elf. I was Indiana Jones dude.
Nicolas Cage? The Nicolas
Uh,
Cage? Oh no, that's National Treasure. That's National Treasure I'm thinking
yeah,
about.
I didn't do him. Man, there's a lot of them. Snoop Dogg. I look like Snoop Dogg.
No, that's awesome. We'll have to post that. We'll have to get a video of that, and I'll have to send it out so everybody can take a look at that. But once again, Mike, thanks for joining the show, and we'll throw your DMs or your social media handle down below so everybody can see it, and go follow you and check out that video because I got to see the Snoop Dogg. That's got to be posted. Yeah, hopefully it
Uh,
can beat Jason Cass's onesie that he was in. A little speedo is pretty hysterical. Next question. This is more of a serious side that I love. Do you hate to win, or excuse me, do you hate to lose, or do you love to win?
Man, I love to win. Yeah, I love to win. I would say, yeah, more than hating to lose. I'm not a sore loser by any means, but there's just a feeling of accomplishment when you actually win something when you're the top dog.
I love it. I love it. That answer, every time I've listened to the show, either listened to the show or had guests on the show, the answer is never the same. There's always a reason why they either hate to lose or love to win. So great answer. I like that a lot. And I think a lot of people do like being the top dog, and it makes the person that you're competing against say, hey, I might have a tough time competing with that Mike Lewis down the street because that dude's a top dog. He loves to win. So going into the love to win, hate to lose part a little bit more on the luck and skill side. Uh, we go through lots of things in the world. We learn lots of stuff. We've got a lot of skill sets. But in the current position that you're in, what would you say, I guess, puts you more in that position? Luck or more skill?
Man, that's a great question. Luck or skill? You know, you I've always considered myself a lucky guy. I mean, when I buy a scratch off ticket, I assume I'm going to win when I scratch that ticket off. So I'm going to say I'm a lucky guy, but you don't get anywhere in life if you don't put the work in for sure.
I agree. I like that. I like that a lot. Always another great answer. You never know where that's going to lead. So, I'm taking all these questions, by the way. I can't give myself any credit because these are Cass's questions. These are the ones that he's developed over the last 4 years, 5 years, 6 years, whatever it is. And he's fine tuned this. But I feel like if I'm guest hosting the show, I've got to ask those same questions. I'll throw
Yeah,
my twist on the end. I like to do a little rapid fire questions to get to know you a little bit more and just have a little fun with it. But going into the career that you're in, your current position, as the president over at Archbold and Lewis Insurance, good old Indiana, and I'm gonna scratch the word because I'm not even gonna say it for our listeners. How do you say the city? Excuse me, the town that you live in here in Indiana?
yeah. So I live in Ossian, and we have an office in Ossian and Bluffton, Indiana. They're real close to each other.
Okay, both north. If anyone's familiar with Fort Wayne, the Ossian. Now that I can now pronounce it after hearing you say it again, after the good old ADHD kicks in, and I forget after you just told me probably 5 minutes ago. It's a little bit south of Fort Wayne. So Fort Wayne's up in the northeast part of Indiana. Cold as hell. Cold as hell. I
Yeah,
can't. Like what I said. If you visit Indiana, it better be in the summertime or fall because other than that, it's not that fun of a state to do anything in. But back to kind of on track here after the squirrel mind that I've got. So in your current position as the president over at Archbold and Lewis Insurance, kind of take us back through time a little bit. You can take us back as far as you'd like, bring us up to speed, kind of your career path, things that have happened with you that's led you in the position that you are in the current position as the president at Archbold and Lewis.
yeah. So I started. It's been a family business for me. It was my dad's partner before him. The agency started back 1936, so it's been in the area for a while for sure. Um, I came in. Well, let me back that up. My dad partnered with Pete Archbold, who started the agency. He partnered with him back in the early '70s. Um, I was that blessing child, so late arrival for all my brothers and sisters, and I I came into the world, and that's all I knew that my dad ever did was be an insurance guy. So I kind of grew up in that atmosphere, and I had no intention of being an insurance guy for sure. I left high school. I went into heating and air conditioning as a heating and air conditioning guy for quite a while. Somewhere in that time, my dad was ready to get out of the business, and I think it was 1997, and I was the logical choice in our family for that next step, I guess. I wasn't ready for it probably at that time, but that's the step I took, and man, I never looked back.
Now, as far as the process goes of just being, because I bring it up all the time, whether it's on this show or whether it's just collaborating with some other agents or whoever I might be talking to in the industry. A lot of agents don't ever find themselves from the beginning even thinking they're going to get into insurance. Okay, and it's in my eyes, like I've talked to Heath Sheeran over at in Insurance Town. Heath, same thing. He was a second generation insurance agent. I mean, you grew up in the insurance business with family. As far as that goes, I mean, did you ever have a time in your life where you're like, okay, I don't even know that I've been a part of this and I've seen it for the last, 20, 30 years of my life. Did you ever have any type of thought in the back of your mind, like, oh, okay, I don't even want to get into the insurance business. I just don't think I do. Or was it from the beginning, just that determining factor of I was born into this. This is what I want to do. I want to follow my father's footsteps and leave that legacy for my children.
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I did not think I would be in that position. I was content doing whatever else in the world out there. I could have been a mailman, a UPS driver. Didn't matter to me at that point. That was my dad's gig, and yeah, I never really thought of it any further than that. It came to a point though that he was ready to retire, and he's either going to sell that business or he's going to sell it to me, and then I'm going to move forward with it. So I made that choice. It wasn't really something that I planned on getting into up until that opportunity presented itself, for sure. And then, like I said, at that point, it's been a good forward motion for sure.
Now, as you've seen the agency evolve, and this isn't just the agency you've been with, but for you, I mean, you guys have been a part of the agency since 1936. I mean, heck, that's a long time, and things have changed. I mean, we see things change in 2 to 3 to 5 years. I know with me being in the insurance business for 3 years already, I've already seen it change immensely. Or there's things that are hidden behind the scenes that you don't know that's going on that really are gonna that give you on the forefront of the change that could be potentially coming. So as you've seen it with your father, and we'll get into the content side of things and what you're doing on social media that's really helping you knock it out of the park. But from the time that your father and seeing it grow up and evolve to where you have it now, what would you say some of the biggest changes are? Obviously, technology being one of them, but you would have to agree that things have just changed greatly since the time that you saw when you were a little kid to now.
Yeah, absolutely. Again, I joined in 1997. Um, at that time, my dad was just getting into computer rating for auto and home. Prior to that, dude, it was everything was in a book. If you had a 1980 Chevrolet Impala, it was $20 a week or whatever. That's how you did it. Nothing else came into play. There was no credit rating. They hardly even, as long as you were under a certain number of tickets or accidents, you were still in that same class, you were good. So that was the biggest change. I think when my dad, prior to me coming in, if you wanted to write a house, there were questions. They called it a blue card, I think, and it was about the size of a note card or a postcard, and that's all you filled out, and you sent that in, and they gave you house insurance for that.
Wow.
$50 were common, So, and that's when he wanted to get out. Any old guy doesn't like change. They don't want to grow with that, and that was his time to say, "Hey, I'm getting out of here."
And I'm glad you said that. I don't want to say it like old that old guys don't like to change, but the older generation of insurance agents are not big fans of change. And I can
Yep.
speak on that behalf of with the agency that I'm with. Um, and here's where I kind of want to hit home and have a pretty good conversation to help those agents out. And if you're listening to this guy, stay with us because there's a really good conversation topic getting ready to happen here. So for those agents that are out there that could be, let's talk producers or people that are inside of the agency because that's who we're talking to right here, those people that are inside that agency. who might have a principal owner who, is that old style. This is the way we've done it for 25, 30 years. This is how we're going to do it. I come from an agency, same thing, who that's how they've done it for 25, 30 years. That's the way they're going to continue to do it. Obviously, technology evolves. Things have got to change. Agency management systems change, whatever it potentially could be. But where I think and where I'm going to go to my grave dying on this, and I'm going to continue to speak it until every single insurance agent out there can grasp a hold of it and do it, is the use of digital and social media and content creating, how it's going to change the game of insurance on the production side. And when I say that, there's people out there, and you'll see it all the time where you're scrolling through Facebook, and you see that State Farm ad, or you see that post from somebody down the road who, hey, we're offering a free quote. Let us quote your insurance. Okay, I told this on a couple episodes before. We all know you're quoting free insurance or free quotes for insurance. We all do it. That's everybody in the industry. So just by putting that on a social media post, yeah, it might remind them. But what you have to do, and what you're doing, Mike, and this is what our loyal listeners need to continue to understand. And Jason talks about this, and Caitlin Eggart talks about this, Hanley talks about this. You're building that authority. You're building and identifying who Mike Lewis is and who he's associated with. So Mike, on your end, for you on social media, I love your videos. I love what you're doing. And for people that are trying to get started in that, or trying to get that content created, um, uh, go watch Mike and see what he's doing. But before we put the cart before the horse, and this might be a question you might be able to answer for us, Mike, is for an agent who might be struggling with maybe that principal agent, that principal owner, or maybe a executive or account executive manager who oversees this this producer's daily activity, who might not agree with their social media strategy, or for them going out and taking time to create content or taking time to create videos. What might be some advice for them? Because that's a big thing that I think is the biggest, I guess, roadblock for these young agents, or these people that are in the insurance industry, these loyal listeners, is they might get hit with that roadblock of the principal owner or the manager not liking them creating content because they feel the need of, you're in the office to write insurance from 9 to 5. That's what needs to be done. You got anything to say on that?
Well, I mean, two different things I hear there: captives and independents. Captives are always held held by their captive on what they can and can't do on social media right away, because they're there to brand um, the
The
the big.
business. Yeah.
Yeah, they're there to brand that. An independent guy, like me, I'm always encouraging everybody that works here to brand themselves. And that means, even if they didn't want to work with me anymore, they need to be branding themselves so that they can go on to that next place or hang their own shingle out there, and they're already known. That's what they need to be doing. And as I encourage people to do that, you say, hey, why would you encourage somebody to brand themselves and then they're going to take off? The happier that I can make them, the more successful I can make them. Why would they want to leave? You know. So that's what I see as far as that goes. What I would say to anybody out there, any agency, maybe an OG, let them start branding themselves. Let that content get out there, because that's the old way is gone. Everybody's sitting at the stoplight right now looking at their phone, sometimes right when they're rolling down the road. So that's where it's at.
And he just hit it right on the head, guys. And this isn't the first time they've heard this, Mike, on this show. It isn't the first time they've heard the brand yourself. And I can't speak on it enough. And like I've told people before, is it's taken me a life lesson it has nothing to do with insurance. It took me a life experience to understand who Mitch Gibson was, and to identify who my personal brand was before. If you don't know your personal brand, or you can identify who you are and what your beliefs are and what you're going after, how in the hell are you going to be able to try to persuade somebody and sell insurance to somebody who they don't know who they're buying the insurance from, but let alone you don't even know who they're buying the insurance from. And that's extremely important. And what you're doing on the content side, and we can get talking about that, because you're doing a great job of branding yourself. And when you brand yourself, not only is just your name, the last name Lewis, associated with the name of the agency, but they're understanding what Lewis they're dealing with. They're dealing with Michael Lewis, and he cares about the community. Mike Lewis cares about his customers. Mike Lewis cares about his agents, his colleagues, his competitors. You're building that authority at a really high level, and I think where that disconnection is people feel like they've got to brand who they work for so daggone much. And I get it, there might be rules and regulations within that company. Not talking captive here, but your agency might have rules and regulations of you're not. We have a social media person, we got social media people. We want to make sure that funnel's going through them. But there's a really a huge open opportunity on the social media market. And even as we talked before the show, on the podcasting market, whether it's a niche podcast or whether that's a agency podcast, whoever that is, that niche podcast is going to help drive business to you guys and to you as that agent, because you're building that authority. For me, it's building that authority in my community, in my town. And not just because I want to write more business in my town, but because I love my town. I'm passionate about my town. And I think that's where you are. So what is it that brings you passion to what you're doing? And kind of give a little backstory to our loyal listeners here on your strategy, who you're interviewing, what's kind of your niche, and what are you doing to create that video content?
Yeah, so you talk about community, and I am right there with you. I love my area. I love my town. I'm also a volunteer fireman, and volunteer fireman means you do all the work and you don't get paid, right? So I love that. I love giving back in that aspect for sure. But basically, as far as an insurance agent, I want to be there for the absolute worst thing that can happen to someone, to their family. I want to be there for them. I want to make sure that they had the right protection, that somebody actually listened and cared enough to them to help them get the coverage that they needed, to make sure it was in place, to at least ask that question and give them options. So, I mean, that's why I do what I do.
Now I have to ask, because this is my favorite thing that you do. You do, and I don't know if you do it every Friday, every Saturday, whatever it is, but you do a dad joke. Is it a dad joke of the day, a dad joke of the week?
Yeah,
Tell us the reason behind that. You bring the son involved with it too, in the family. So kind of give us a
right.
little backstory of what drove that.
Yeah. So I last year, my wife gave me a desk calendar for Christmas, and it was a bad dad joke of the day. So every day I flip over this calendar, and it told me the stupidest joke you could imagine. And about halfway through the year, I just thought, you know what, I'm going to start telling these jokes online. And so about maybe three times, four times a week, I'll publish a bad dad joke of the day. And I don't always get them from the calendar anymore. I mean, it's been amazing. People will email me, text me, call me on the phone. It's like, hey, dude, you should try this one. This is funny. And some of them are very funny, and maybe I can't put them on social media. Uh, yeah, keep them clean for the family, and that has been working out fantastic for me. And it's something silly and dumb, but my wife and I were out to eat a few weeks ago, and we sat down at the restaurant, and this lady's staring at me, and she stands up to leave, and she says, "Are you that bad dad joke guy?" You know, and that's what you want. That's what you want. You want people to know you, like you, and trust you, and that's the name of the little podcast that I do around here. Know, like, and trust, and it's really just to get people aware of other people and businesses in our community that they're going to come into contact with that otherwise maybe they wouldn't have known.
That's awesome. And loyal listeners, I think that just continues to, I feel like I'm the smartest man in the world now by having people like you on the show, because it makes what Cass and I and Hanley and Flowers and Carruthers and Heath are saying all the time on these insurance podcasts is, guys, it's not about just putting out stuff all the time about insurance, not about insurance at all. It's a bad dad joke of the day that's giving him that's reaching so many people. And when you go out to dinner or you go out to have a cocktail, and this has happened to me many times, and they identify you not as that insurance agent, they identify you as what they've associated something with that they've seen on social media because of it's something that's impacted them or made them laugh. And same thing with you. When you go out to dinner and someone said, you're that bad dad joke of the day, that probably was the highlight of your week or the highlight of your year when someone noticed that on social media. And you know what that person's going to do? And Mike, I'm going to speak for you for a second, because this is the truth, and this is happening. If someone's noticing you in the community for a bad dad joke of the day, they're probably going to do one or two things. They're probably going to Google search bad dad joke of the day, XYZ, what town, city you're from, and it's going to pop up. His Instagram and Facebook are going to pop up. LinkedIn, it's going to pop up. Then they're going to see who he is. Oh, that Mike Lewis, that dude's funny. He cares about trying to make people laugh. He's got passion about what he does. Oh, he's an insurance agent. My renewal's coming up for my home and auto insurance. Hey Johnny, or hey Susie, let's call Mike and have him take a look at our policy and see what he thinks. That's going to happen, people. That is going to happen. Believe it or not, Mike, these loyal listeners have got to understand that it does not have to be 175% insurance post and insurance content daily. It's okay to let people and remind people what you do, because that sometimes can get hidden back behind maybe the content that you're creating. But a logo in the video or whatever it could be is really going to do the justice of making someone dive into a little bit more and finding out who you are. Does that, you kind of have anything to feed off of that?
Man, actually, yeah, you talk about that. Yawn if all you do is ever post, hey, I can give you a free quote on social media, because they're going to scroll right by that and have no interest to talk to you. I'm branding myself, I guess, and the agency when I do something like that. I'm saying, hey, this is Mike Lewis, Archbold Lewis Insurance, and I'm going forward with it like that. So you're exactly right. You hit the nail right on the head for sure, because people are going to start to associate that, and then they're going to reach out to you because they see you. They start to think that they know you just because they're seeing you, and then that trust factor rolls in the same way, and that's where it's at. Something else that I do along with that is a lot of times I will highlight a business when I tell a joke. Maybe I make that joke in relationship to an appliance store in the area. So I'll tag that appliance store, give them a little shout out while I'm doing that. I tag that appliance store. Anybody that sees or goes to that appliance store page, now they're going to see that bad dad joke too. So it's good for me with them.
And I just want to tell you, I take notes, guys, and this is something that's the truth. And if you're listening to this podcast or if you're watching it, I'm holding up my chicken scratch handwriting. Okay, I take notes when I'm listening to other people, because it's okay to bounce ideas off of people. I took one from Ryan Mahoney the other day, the guy down from Goosehead Insurance. He does a highlights of our week, or the best of our week videos, where he'll have his agents, maybe three, not every single one of them, but 3 or 4 of his agents, do a quick little video and send it to him, and then he will edit it or send it to his video editor and say, here's our top, 3 or 4 highlights from our week. So it gives a chance for his agents, and they don't talk insurance like, oh, I just saved, Johnny down the street $1,000 on insurance today. No, it's the consistent factor of, best of my week was I got to take my daughter to, so this is going to sound really bad because who likes going to the dentist, but I took my daughter to the dentist. The dentistry that we took the daughter to, we were able to get 5 or 6 boxes of toothpaste and toothbrushes, and we were able to go donate those to our local homeless shelter. Something like that does wonders. Okay. And that requires zero insurance. That requires talking about insurance at zero. And I don't know about you, and I've got a few more things on this content, social media, niche market podcast side of things before we get into some of my rapid fire questions I want to get at before it gets too late here. But one, time management. Okay. I know from an agency owner's perspective to a producer's perspective is a lot different. Okay. And not everybody, I'm very lucky with the agency that I'm with, by being able to have some leniency and the understanding of I'm getting my insurance stuff done. And on the back end, they understand my passion and what I'm trying to achieve behind my podcast and my content that I'm using. So for those producers out there that might think, whether they're inside the agency, CSRs, whoever it is, speak on this for me for a little bit, Mike. The time aspect of it, one, making sure that they're doing the video work and making sure that it's quality stuff. And 2, the biggest thing that people run into is the editing. I don't have the time. What is your from putting a piece of content or recording a piece of content, putting it to putting it to work and then posting it. What does that look like? How long does that take you? Do you have someone that helps you edit that stuff? Maybe you have, kids that are really good with Adobe. I don't know what it is, but kind of give us a little bit of your process on creating a piece of content.
Yeah, so there are so many times on content that I just open it up and shoot it. A couple weeks ago, uh, it was I was in a Taco Bell line, and I did a real quick video. I'm waiting in line on iMovie. I edit it and I publish it while I'm on my way home. That's a quick one, obviously. But people love all of that. It doesn't always have to be polished. People want original. They want to see that this dude makes mistakes too. He's like me. So don't get me wrong. I do spend time editing them out. I have a guy that's helping me with some of that. But for the most part, it's just get in there and do it. The hardest thing, honestly, is just to keep at it, and that's with anything. It's just consistency. If you can't do it, I mean, you almost need to pay yourself to do it. Somehow make it happen, because that's what most people do. They're like, oh, I think I'm going to try that social media, and they post something, then a week goes by, they post something else, and man, with all the algorithms, nobody ever sees it, and it's gone, and they're like, that didn't work, so I'm not trying that again. Consistency is the king there, man. Just to keep going.
I would say the two things I took away from what Mike was just now saying is, and for you loyal listeners, if you got the pen and paper in front of you, write this one down, or kind of put it in the back of your mind and remember it. The consistency, the authenticity. Okay. He just talked to two things that I love. And those are the things I've talked about multiple times on the show too, Mike, is being authentic. People want to know who they're doing business with. And it goes back to the whole branding situation. If you're acting as one person on social media, or you're acting as one person as the insurance agent, and they see you in town and you're acting 360 degrees different than the way that they perceive you, that's not a good rap, guys. That's not a good way. That's not a good way for people to look at you. And you want to be that authentic person. And I'll tell you, Mike, it's the whole branding situation of you either get to decide your brand or let society decide the brand for you. I don't know about you, but I do not want the society, especially the society that we live in, to decide who Mitch Gibson is and what my brand is at all. So being authentic and keeping that consistency of creating it. Rome wasn't built in a day. I remember that. My dad says it all the time. Rome wasn't built in a day, Mitch. Rome wasn't built in a day. Make sure you're staying consistent doing this. And he talks about it in sports. And I'm saying it here in social media. Rome was not built in a day. I'm saying on this show, Rome's not built in a day. Just do it. It'll get better. And maybe sooner or later you might make money off the daggone thing, and you can pay people like Cass, we got your podcast.com, send it to him and let his team do it. And you just spend your time selling the shit out of insurance. That could potentially happen. But you've got to stay consistent, right? And you've got to have that. You've got to have that authentic part about yourself. If it sucks, it sucks. Post it. Ask for feedback. Ask other agents. Ask Mike Lewis. Ask Mitch Gibson. Ask whoever it is in the industry that's might be doing stuff to that nature at scale, and ask them for advice. We're here to help. We're here to help. Mike, you're here to help, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. There's nothing better I like than helping somebody through a struggle or anything like that. Absolutely. I'm open all the time.
Absolutely. Well, Mike, once again, dude, I appreciate your wealth of knowledge. I'm probably have to get you back on the show again sometime. Hopefully the technology aspect of things run a little smoother for us. And at least we're gonna have an episode here for our loyal listeners to listen to, and go on to the week with maybe some ideas that they can take into 2021 and go kill it this year. So before I let you go, I like to add a little rapid fire segment at the end of some questions that I always ask on my show. And the last question I'm going to ask you here, once I ask it, it's a pretty powerful question, and it really can hit home to a lot of people, especially those that might just be just now getting into the insurance business, trying to figure out what to do with their career there. So if you're ready, we're going to go right into this rapid fire segment. Question number one: what's your favorite flavor of ice cream?
Oh man, vanilla.
Plain Jane?
You got it.
Mike. I'm not a big sweets guy. I can't do chocolate, but just vanilla. You can't, nothing else.
If I was going somewhere, I'm getting something with peanut butter, moose track, something like that. But yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Vanilla. Wow. That's probably the first I've ever heard on the show. Whether it was this show or my own podcast, vanilla ice cream. I mean, I'm not saying nothing against it, but that's, if I had to choose one piece of ice cream, I think I'd come up with something a little bit more different than vanilla. But no, I'm
Yeah.
just pulling your leg on that one. What's your favorite color?
Blue.
Blue. All right. What is your favorite? You're there in good old Ossian. Did I say it
Hmm.
correctly? Good old
Yeah.
Ossian, Indiana. What's your favorite local restaurant?
Oh man, you're putting me on the spot there, but I'm going to give you two, uh, Mi Casa and El Camino,
Two
Mexican.
Mexican restaurants.
Oh, absolutely.
Margarita guy, or are you a Dos Equis?
Dos Equis.
Okay, I could see that from you. I could see that from you. That's awesome. No, and then Mike, the reason why I asked that question, we can take it a little bit more serious here for a second because the last question is pretty serious. But the last question, guys, if you didn't listen, if you just heard what I ask, is what's his favorite local restaurant? And this goes back to writing pen and stuff on the pen and papers. Might be something you write if you start your own little niche podcast, or you're trying to find out some ideas in your office. A good one to ask, or a good question to ask, or good question to ask your employees or other agents in your office. Ask them what their favorite local restaurants are. Name five. What's your top five favorite local restaurants? Top five favorite places to shop. And here's why. Just like what Mike does, you get a chance to tag those businesses in that post and get their engagement, build that relationship, build that authority. Could give you a chance to go back and ask them for a chance to look at their insurance. Piece of content by just asking one question. Love that question. Great something to take away of this show and these questions that we're asking. Great way to bounce ideas off of each other. All right, one last question. This is more on the serious side, and I love this question a lot because it can really impact a lot. And it was someone that asked me this question when I was a young kid. Told me to think about this as I was growing up, and it's asking people for advice. And I think where this question leads when I ask this, Mike, I just want you to take it in and really give us a great your thoughts and what you've learned back since the time that you saw the agency evolve when your father was the owner of it, and all the way to now where you're at. But if you could give any of our loyal listeners a piece of advice as they go through their career, whether young, just now getting into it, finishing on the back end of their career, that could help them in retirement. If you could give one piece of advice, what would it be?
Yeah, Mitch, that's a great question. But for somebody starting out, you do not have the time to make all the mistakes yourself. You need to take some of that knowledge from other people, other competitors. Get yourself a mentor, a buddy. Talk to them, bounce ideas off of them because they're going to have ideas that you never even thought of, and they're also going to have already tried some of the things that you think are the greatest thing in the world. So you don't need to waste your time. That doesn't mean you couldn't put a new twist on it, but bounce ideas off of other people, and learn from their mistakes for sure.
I agree. And I wouldn't be sitting in this chair right now as a guest host to the Agency Intelligence podcast, loyal listeners. I wouldn't be sitting here today if it wasn't for me asking advice, me reaching out. Don't be afraid to reach out. We're here to help. Why do you think all these podcasts, successful insurance podcast stars, you guys know who I'm talking about. You guys know who I'm talking about. The guys that are really making the big bucks and doing the big things. Why do you think they do these shows? To help us. They do these shows to help us and to help us see the growth in the industry and help us be on top of the industry. They don't if there's agents out there not listening to the show or to any shows out there, good, that's fine. More insurance for us to write, baby. That's what I'm talking about. But don't be afraid to ask. Don't be afraid for them to put you down and say no. And this is what I'll leave everybody with. Staying on the advice side, Mike. If you ask somebody for advice and they give it to you, wouldn't you think you'd take that advice and at least try it out or see if it works first? Because I know when someone gave me advice to start my own podcast, when Bradley Flowers gave me the advice to start my niche podcast, and I didn't start it, and I said that it was stupid, and I'm not going to try that. It's going to take up too much of my time, and no, I'm not doing that. I need to sell insurance. From someone that's been so successful doing what they're doing, and I'm talking to all of our insurance professionals that are doing this podcast thing right now. And if I didn't take that advice and told them to kind of screw off by not replying or not talking to them, you think that person's gonna give me any advice ever again? Probably not. Probably not. or they're going to tell you to go kiss his ass, kiss her ass, and kiss anyone else's ass, because they want people that want to learn. I want to talk to people that want to learn because I want to help you learn. Mike wants to hear you guys talk to him so he can help you learn and evolve. We're not going to be in the insurance business, for forever. There's going to be a time where we want to retire, hopefully. So let's continue to pass that on to everybody else, and we want to help. And Mike, I commend you for doing that, and I commend you for giving everybody a platform to see and grab ideas from you. I took 2 ideas from you, and I'm going to put them into play starting next week. So thank you for giving me those ideas and those tips to continuously having a great social media strategy as we go into 2021. So Mike, anything else you want to let the loyal listeners know? And if you could let everybody know your social media stuff so they can contact you and listen to the Insurance Wise Guy.
Yeah, I appreciate it, Mitch. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, just get out there and do it. That's really what I want to leave everybody with. Get out there and do it. Don't be scared. Everybody's like, all right, not me. I don't want to get on camera, but just jump out there, because that's how you're going to succeed. The insurance is a relationship business, and that's what you need to do. You need people to know, like, and trust you, and that's what it's all about. Yeah, you can reach out to me. Facebook, Archbold and Lewis Insurance. You can also find me at the Insurance Wise Guy on just about every social media platform there is. So
that's awesome. Appreciate that. And once again, Mike Lewis, the Insurance Wise Guy, coming to us from Archbold and Lewis Insurance out of good old Indiana and Ossian, Indiana. I about forgot it again, Mike. It's just such a hard word. I've never been to Ossian, but I'm gonna have to take a trip on my way up to Fort Wayne next time I go up there and see some clients. So, Mike, thanks again, my man. I appreciate it. Loyal listeners, thanks for tuning in to the Agency Intelligence Podcast. I am your host, Mitch Gibson, and I appreciate you guys joining the show. Always remember that you can make a difference. Have a great day, everybody. Take care.